The body is a flow system designed to heal itself. And in order to reset the foundation for healing, we go back to the beginning of how the body developed, because we know it heals the same way. During the development of an embryo moving into the fetus, one of the first things that happens is the folding over of tissue, and it goes right down the center of what looks like a big oval clump of cells. All of a sudden, down the center, this folding over happens, and that fold becomes the nervous system, the spine, and then from there, these organs begin to bud and develop. Now, you can see that they're interdependent. We know that the neuroendocrine system, which is the nervous system and the hormone system, they're two parts to one system. The nervous system uses amino acids. The hormonal system uses cholesterol. And all hormones convert from cholesterol. Cholesterol turns into pregnenolone, and then the entire hormone tree is built. And this pulses the electromagnetic pulse of the body, which feeds the heartbeat and everything else. It's called the autonomic nervous system, is pulsing in a field of light. It's electromagnetic. And in order for it to stay healthy, we have to have the gut working, because that's what feeds and builds the rest of the tissue. So this one allows cell to cell and organ to organ communication. And here's the drainage system. So think of this as the cleanup crew. There are primary pathways of elimination, and we get into those in many of these videos. So we began by giving people this healing template. And you can see these same three systems provide the microbiome support. And before we can get inside the cell to do some really extensive, advanced testing to put you on an individualized healing program, we have to get this in sync. All right? Once we do these targeted cellular support, then we can get way inside the cell into the organelles and begin to address root cause, which is these are genetic patterns that are passed on, and we're able to address those with targeted therapies as well. Then people are ready for a maintenance program. All right? So this is the healing template, and it works hand in hand with this. You can see we start with the foundation right here. And in order to educate people about the 6 phases of healing, this works hand in hand with this. You can see this biological division down the middle. Everything on this side is outside of the cell, which is related to these systems. And when we get over to this side, this is where we have the genetic patterns. At the top of this chart, you can see that there's an arrow going in towards disease. And you can see that it says the humoral phases, which have to do with water. And there's 4 branches of water in the body. When we get over here, it's inside the cell. And this is where it gets passed on. So when we look at diabetes, it's right in here. It's a degenerative disease. And when we look at the impregnation phase, so this is how it works. These are the tissue layers right here related to this. They form this. And these are actually the stem cells. So you can see the ectoderm, the endoderm, the mesenchyme, that's the humors, and then the mesoderm. We know that derm means skin, and we know that these bodies are a big bag of skin, and less than 1% of us is physical. So what happens here is when these tissues stop pulsing together, it's because some kind of shock happened. And this is where the body increases excretion. And so you can see a lot of these conditions related to trauma. That's essentially what the first phase is. Now, if the body doesn't have what it needs to excrete this, it's going to increase fever. And you have all these types of inflammatory processes that begin to happen. What do people do the moment a fever comes on? They freak out, right? But guess what? If we work with the fever, it actually increases these powerful enzymes by 98% that can actually open this up and bring whatever the body is dealing with all the way out. Now, it's never going to be just shock, because the moment we go into shock, there's a sound like that. And what ends up happening is this autonomic nervous system gets out of balance. And then we start to get a buildup of toxins here. And then the digestive system is compromised as well. So all leaky gut leads to arthritis issues, joint issues, brain fog. In fact, we now know that stage 3 diabetes is what arthritis really is. It's also what dementia is. So we began by working with people to make sure that if they have any symptoms, that they're not doing anything to stress their body. You want to make sure that you're eating every 3 hours instead of doing intermittent fasting. And the reason for that is the body will kick out cortisol. And cortisol is a crystalline hormone, and it's designed for you to move. It breaks up, it gives you energy so that you can run away from a tiger, but it also destroys tissue. And if the body's making a lot of cortisol, it's because there's a hormonal imbalance. Also, these strenuous exercise programs where you get up and you stress the organs and systems, that's also going to kick out cortisol. And so you might be able to form your body into something, but it's all about your energy level. Over here we have cancer. Okay, neoplasm is cancer. And cancer is just a natural biological process that's working out in a body where the pathways of elimination are compromised. So just think about how the body will begin to build these little pockets where it can stuff things that can't be eliminated. Back over here, if we focus on eliminating inflammation without getting to the root cause, the body will deposit it somewhere. The whole hope is it's going to come back later and get it. You can see varicose veins, swelling of the lymph glands, all of this stuff in here. Cysts, nasal polyps. Once it crosses into the cell and gets inside the cell, this is where we have impregnation, and this is the building up of layers, one on top of the next. So do you see the virus infections? Virus infections are always inside the cell. That's where they go, because viruses, the virome, is located inside the spinal column. It's very much connected to the kidneys as well. So we've got viruses, bacteria. Viruses help with cell replication. We've got bacteria that actually is the mitochondria. They do everything. And once we start getting a buildup of toxins, we end up getting fungal infections because fungus and mold in the body can absorb at least 4 times its weight in toxins. Once there's a buildup of fungus in the body, that's when the parasites move in and start eating the degenerative tissue. So you can see these degeneration phase is going to be any autoimmune condition that is considered terminal, or there's no cure for it in Western medicine. Well, the worldview proves differently. So when we look at MS, lupus, you can see all of this is in here. Tuberculosis of the lung and the intestines, cirrhosis of the liver, all of this. So can the body heal it? Absolutely. The body's absolutely designed to heal itself if it has what it needs. If the body lives through this, it may create cancer. And no, you don't have to have a gene for it. It's a natural biological process that works out in a body that's under a state of stress, shock. And so what do? We start here. We open the primary pathways of elimination first so that we can get in and do deeper detoxes later. And I want to show you the emotional aspects. You can see this is the same chart. You can see these same 6 phases up here. See those? Yep. And this is the Eastern view. So we know that when someone goes into shock, there's fear, and that blocks excretion pathways. And if those aren't open, the individual begins to worry. And worry turns into anger. And once it gets across the biological line, it's a grieving process. So many of the genetic mutations that are passed on through families are unresolved grief. Did you know that? That's when depression comes in, an imbalance in joy. And it might be hyperactivity, ADHD. This is where all kinds of mental, emotional, spiritual things are happening. And when we get into Cancer, it's always about resentment and the inability to forgive self and others. So we start families out by getting them around a round table, and we use the listening stick so that we can educate people to come all the way through a healing process and into a maintenance program in a matter of months, not years. Make sense? I also want to show you this down here, the elemental aspects. You can see the detox pathway. This is all lymph, lymph, lymph for the first 3. And then it gets into the blood, goes deeper into the blood. And this is left spin when it gets into here. Some people start testing their pH too soon, or they'll focus on eliminating allergies too soon. And if you just hold steady and walk through the process of attuning your body to the 24-hour circadian clock, you'll see videos for that all over the place on our social media. If you actually want to walk through a more formal process with your family, we start by defining each person's health constitution. It's all automated and set up for you to do it alone, virtually. And we do include one-on-ones if you're interested. Love you guys. Bye now. Stay tuned. UnifiedMedicineInstitute.com is where our virtual learning hub is. We also have a franchise if you're interested in opening up a practice that teaches this, but we require you to walk through this part first. which is called Nature Play Therapy Certification. It's where we get your house in order because you can't detox your cells if you're living in a toxic home. What ends up happening is the microbiome gets compromised because the body's a big filtering system. And so we start out by getting the proper water, the proper air purification, all of that kind of stuff like that. Step by step, easy peasy. Love you guys. You all know that right now the Aquarian age is love-hate. There's this polarized condition. And why is that? Well, we just went through a very shocking experience where people lost their connection. And we've got a buildup of these toxins as a result of it. So let's come all the way through a healing process this year, shall we? Much love. Bye for now.